Canada's Natural Resource Minister is firing back at the NDP's new website. Joe Oliver says the website that spoofs his earlier comments about anti-pipeline activists is both amusing but also quite shocking. Ezra Vant is host of The Source here on the Sun News, and he joins me more with what's at the heart of this issue. Ezra, great to see you. I never go to NDP website, so I haven't actually seen this website. What's on it?
My computer software called NetNanny doesn't allow me to go to dangerous sites like the NDP. But I put on some protection, and I used a public computer, and I won't say I'm shocked by what I saw. Look, the NDP has decided to counter Stephen Harper's pro-development stance with their own anti-development stance. The site actually has a touch of humor, which is unusual for the NDP, and you're right, it mocks Joe Oliver's contention that there are foreign radicals trying to undermine oil and gas development. It's not really in dispute. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars have poured into Canada from U.S. foundations like the Tides Foundation in San Francisco, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund in New York. It's sort of funny that a lot of that money is oil money. I mean, J.D. Rockefeller, 100 and some years ago, he made most of his money in oil, but now his great-grandkids are using that inheritance to fight against oil. Sort of weird. But the NDP... Here's what's interesting to me. I mean, finding politics back and forth websites, that's how campaigns are done in 2012. But there's a change here, Pat, and it's who does the NDP think it is? 20, 30, 40 years ago, if there was a guy wearing a hard hat, odds are he was an NDP or blue collar, working outdoors, lumber, mining.
Construction.
Yeah, guys who work out,
Built
real
cars.
hard work. But that's who the NDP seems to oppose these days. Forestry, aquaculture, mining, oil and gas, pipe building. Those used to be the turf of labor unions. Now they're more the downtown, professors, guys sitting at Starbucks texting each other all day. Not really hardworking guys. So the NDP, I think, has forsaken their roots. Hard hat guys. Now they're for the eggheads downtown. Now that's fine, but I think it marks a change that they're no longer for resource development in a country that's built on resource development. It's a little bit unusual.
Yeah, it's also, we've heard arguments that they're pandering to this anti-West sentiment that happens in Quebec. And Mulcair has his strength in Quebec. Could that be the case?
That's a big part of it. What's unusual about that is that Quebec itself certainly gets a lot of economic activity out of the land. I mean, their hydroelectric projects have covered enormous amounts of former forests and water. So if you care about greenhouse gas emissions, you've just wiped out millions of acres, actually, of carbon sinks. The asbestos mine, which is quite controversial, this huge open pit mine in asbestos, Thomas Mulcair is quiet as a church mouse on that because we can't talk about resource development in Quebec as a bad thing because that's his base. But resource development in the West, they're taking shots at. Now, there is a constituency in downtown Vancouver that's opposed to resource development. Again, the Starbucks-dwelling texters, who I'm not quite sure what they do to generate GDP, but they sure text a lot. I'm a bit of a texter myself, but anyways, here's my point. Here's my point. I think that if you want to be the Prime Minister of Canada, you've got to come to terms with the fact that we've got a ton of resources. Now that's...
And we need them to finance what we're doing.
That's right. In Quebec, you've got $7 a day daycare. You've got the lowest tuition in North America. That doesn't happen for free. It comes because of transfer payments from the 4 have provinces. What's the number one thing in common between BC, Alberta, Newfoundland, and Saskatchewan, the 4 have provinces?
Yeah, resources.
Resources. Exactly. Newfoundland is a have province. You see, I think that's thrilling because of oil and gas. And you can't expect to have oil and gas quality social services like Quebec has without allowing oil and gas to happen. You can't take the benefits of it while condemning it. But it's not just those indirect benefits. What about the hundreds of thousands of jobs? I mean, it used to be, Pat, that if you want a 6-figure job as a blue-collar guy, you go to Windsor, Oakville, and you make cars. Sadly, those days are over. But you know what? You want a 6-figure job? Go to Fort McMurray, drive a truck, be a welder, work on a rig. You'll make more money than you ever thought you could. That's a good thing. And that old epithet, we're just hewers of wood and drawers of water. Hey, when oil's at $90 a barrel, when potash, uranium, even agricultural products, we are blessed with these things. And by the way, it's not just like in that old show, the Beverly Hillbillies, where Uncle shot at the ground and up came a bubbling crude. It's a very high-tech business, too. There's high technology engineering jobs. So these are outstanding jobs. The world wants our stuff. China and India, that's where the demand is coming from. why don't we say, hey, we're blessed with more oil than any other Western liberal democracy? Here's another stat for you. I know I'm pummeling you with your stats, but Pat, if you look at the list of the top 10 countries ranked by oil reserves,
Yeah.
Canada is the only democracy on the list. Everyone else is a dictator or other bad guy. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela. Shouldn't we rejoice in the fact that we're a good guy with resources?
And we're going to have it for 185 years. Got to leave it there, Ezra. Great to have you on, though.
Thanks for having me.